going on, YouTube? Hit that subscribe button.
Welcome everyone back to the zhpgarage. Hope you guys are all doing well today. What do you got to say? Other than subscribe.
We're working on the old Nova again. Nova's gonna get some doing done.
That's your new phrase of the day, doing done.
Go on, get.
Last thing we did was welding the sump onto the gas tank, so we're not gonna deal with anything with the fuel system until we get this thing stripped down more. What do we got in mind to strip down today?
Well, we're gonna pull the rear end, the whole rear suspension out of the car. Cover off the rear end, see what kind of gears is in it. We're gonna do some upgrades. We're gonna use that housing, but we're gonna put we got some different axles. We wanna see what gears are in it, see if we can use the gears. We're gonna put a posi in it. We gotta cut the brackets off, and then, cause we're doing a full TCI torque link rear suspension on this thing. Coilover is gonna be really a trick. So we're gonna take the whole rear suspension out of it, clean that up, the old fuel lines, finish stripping it down, because if you remember in the first couple videos, the floor is just trash in this thing.
Absolute disaster. It's worse than shotguns going off on it. It's just like...
it's worse than trashed. We're going to strip it, get the fuel lines and air brake lines out from underneath the car, the parking brakes out of the way. So once the rear end's out, we're going to start doing the floors.
So we got a lot ahead. Getting it ready to start all going back together. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it right now.
Let's get this rear end out of here. So we're going to pull the rear end out of this thing. We're taking it all out. So we got just a stock 10 bolt mono leaf spring. So we're gonna start. We got the jack down here. We're gonna put the jack on the pumpkin. Oh,
Easy now.
never mind that truck. I know who the kid who owns it. We can take the U-bolts off. We get down and dirty. Then the lower spring bracket comes off. Holds the e-brake. The lower spring mount. From the factory, they have little rubber isolating pads in them. So the brake line, the flexi, was missing the clip. So I'm just gonna cut, because we're replacing the whole brake line. I'm just gonna cut it, since the clip's already gone. I'm gonna cut it on the other side and just pull the whole line out. So I'm gonna go over the other side, take the 4 bolts off the lower mount. Same thing. I'm just gonna cut this whole brake line. I'm gonna cheat. And the little retaining clip is already missing. So now we get the parking brake. It's attached to the car up here. Got the wire for the fuel sender here in the way. All right, so now I need to go over here where the 2 parking brakes come together. I need to get that loose. This parking brake, little release, so it has a spring on it. You gotta pop out of the way so you can get to the bolt in the center. Got this spring that helps release the parking brake. So you gotta take this off first, because the bolts in the center, the nuts in the center, because the 2 parking brakes come around, they loop around. So you gotta hold it. I'm just gonna use a pair of vice grips to hold the parking brake cable. Take this nut off. Adjuster nut. So this has 1 retainer lock and 1's missing on this. So this is what the retainer locks look like to hold it up in there. You can see here how both the parking brakes come together to loop in the bracket. So now the jacks, this is just sitting on the jack. You jack it up a little bit more, but it's pretty much sitting on the jack. So now I'm going to take the leaf spring out. So I'm just going to bolt the front. And all this stuff's been in there for a while, so you need to give it a little persuasion to get it apart. Got to work it out of there. There's your front bolt. Then the leaf spring is just going to fall down. Hopefully not with the rear end. We'll let it fall down then. You can just sit right there a second. So I'm going to do the same on the passenger side. Got both fronts. Now we're going to go to the back. The back one's a little trickier. Well, not really tricky. You just have to take off. I'll show you here when I get it out. So I got both the nuts off. And then you got to slide. They go opposite directions, the bolts. So the top one you can't get off. So you gotta take the bushing out with the bolt, because there's not enough room for it to come out separate. You can see, so the bushing goes in like this. You can't get the separate one out because it's up in between the bumper brackets and the body. So the bolt's gotta come out this way, it hits the body. So you gotta bring the bushing with it. So you gotta take both nuts off and you gotta work it apart to get it out of there. So it's a little tricky. So here's the drivers, probably a factory monoleaf. We're changing this all out because we're going to a coilover. So we're not going to use any of this stuff. So let me get the other side out now, and then we'll get the rear end out here. We're not using any of this glory. It's got new drums on it, but we're going to put disc brakes on it. So we're not using the drums either. All right, there's the other one. All of its glory. We're going to get a couple of jack stands set up, and we're going to pull the cover and the axles and stuff off of it, because we're going to put disc brakes on it, and we're going to upgrade the axles. And I want to see what gears are in it, see if we're going to use these gears or get new gears. So I'm going to get some jack stands set up. We'll get it out on the stand and we'll show it to you. So here's our stock rear end. It's just a little guy, it's 8.2, but it's a narrower, you know, it's set up for a Nova, so we're just gonna use it. We're not worried about breaking it. We got some upgrades we're gonna do for it, so it'll be plenty strong enough, and it's not like this car's gonna dead hook on the street and stress the drivetrain, so it'll be fine. So, but we're not using any of the stock brake lines or anything, so I'm just gonna cheat again. I'm just gonna ditch the brake lines. So we're gonna do new hard lines, and it'll probably have a bracket here for the flex, for the caliper, so you get the caliper off. And one simple way, if you're ever wondering if you have a posi or not, if you look at the pinion, if you turn the axle, see it doesn't go anywhere. That one spins opposite. There's no positive traction, so simple way. Or if you turn the pinion and hold the axle, if this axle doesn't turn, no positive traction. So this is just a little strippy, but we're gonna see what gears are in. We might use the gears. We're just gonna zap this cover off. Let's see what we got here. Try to keep some of the dirt out of it. Look at that cute little guy. Easy way to tell your ring gear size ratio. Find the spot where it's stamped. There it is. So this one has 12 into 37. So we divide 12 into 37. I need my calculator device. 37, 7, divided into 12. We got 308 gears. We got 308. One tire fryer right here is what we got. So I think a 308 might be a tad tall of a gear for a 6-speed manual. So I think we're gonna have to do some gears too. So we're gonna strip this thing down. So we got a set of axles for it. So I wanna double check, make sure they're right length. So you gotta spin it around right here. So you take this pin out. Sometimes you gotta spin it so it's down here. So you can sneak it out. Pull the pin out. Let's get rid of some of this fluid here. Strain some of this fluid out of the way. All right, so now with the pin out, so you push the axles in. Oh, that C-clip just fell right out of there. And then once the C-clip's out, you pull the axles out. Man, look at those adorable little things. Those are cute. Do the same on the other side here. So just push the axle in. Oh, the clip just falls right off. These are the C-clips. We talk about C-clip axle. This is a C-clip. This little C-clip is the only thing that holds the axle in the housing. So if you break it anywhere after this point, the whole axle is coming out with your wheel and everything. Everything's coming out. That's why you do C-clip eliminators. They press on a bearing down here that bolts to the axle flange, that if you snap the axle in here anywhere, your axle doesn't come out. So that's what we're talking about when you C-clip axles. So now we're gonna take the gears out of it, the whole carrier. Be careful when you take the caps off. You don't want to switch them around. You want to keep them in the same spot. So if you take them and set them somewhere, make sure you set them same way, side so you can put them back. You pop your whole carrier out. You might have to pry it because it's in there pretty tight. Sometimes it'll pop out. So you get a pry bar. So you just pry this thing up. So you got to work it side to side. Just pop it out of there. It's going to have shims on both sides of it. We're not worried about keeping them in order. If you were going to use the same carrier and everything, you'd want to keep track of them side to side. He's got shims on the side of it, but we're not using any of this. We're not using the bearings, the shims. We'll use the shims, but we got to re-shim it. So we'll just keep the shims, so you got them on both sides. But we're not going to use any of the carrier. So now you want to take your caps, put them back on the same way they were. So now we got to flip it upside down, so make sure little catch can's in the center. You take your pinion nut off. When you take it up, leave it on there a little bit. You don't ever want to reuse these nuts because it's a lock nut. So if you ever do the gears, put a new nut in it. But I don't want to trash these gears. So you put the nut on here, you start getting it apart. You got to beat it down. See how it's starting to come out. So now this we got it started. You take a ball peen and put it in the tip there. Finish driving it down. Well, that's what I was trying to avoid, but kind of want to avoid that. But came out with authority, made a mess. If you wanted to, you could reuse it because it didn't mess up the threads on the end. So you could sell these, use them in another car. Gears are still good. I'll have to get that mess cleaned up afterwards. So you need to pop your seal out. And you got your pinion bearing. And the crush sleeve already came out the bottom. It went somewhere. Oh, it's over there. Crush sleeve's over there by the axle. So if it's in the rear end, it'd go in. Have your crush sleeve, your upper bearing, your pinion, nut, or washer and nut. It's your whole assembly there. So now that we got the gears out of it, we're gonna get these whole backing plate assemblies off of it because we're not gonna use that. We're gonna unbolt. See, there's just four bolts. The whole backing plate comes off. So I'm gonna take these 4 bolts out. So you gotta hold the nut, one nut at a time. Once you get the 4 nuts off, you slide the whole assembly off the end of the axle housing. So we'll do the same on the other side. Knock the whole deal off. So now what we got to do is cut these mounts off of here because we're not using a leaf spring anymore. We're going to a coilover. Now that it's stripped down, we'll clean it up. We'll cut the mounts off and we'll get ready to mock it up with the suspension. But let me show you the parts that I have. So let me get them out of the car. So I just want to show you that the axles that we have already for this thing is just the stock. They're Moser. They're just a stock replacement, and you can see the difference from the original. You see how this is tapered down after the spline? So this is really narrow and it kind of fattens up a little bit. But see on the Moser, that's the same size as the splines all the way. So it's a stronger axle, higher quality alloy. And then also it's double drilled. You can run a 7/16 press in stud or 7/16 screw in, any option you want. So these are the axles we're gonna run in this thing. Just a Moser replacement axle. We're gonna run the stock cover because TCI torque link, the torque arm has a bracket that goes around the rear end cover, and then torque arm goes off the bottom. So we're just gonna run the stock cover, and then we're gonna order up a posi for it and a set of gears. It'll work just fine for the application. And the Nova, like we said before, it's not gonna be a drag car. It's gonna have a radial on it, so it's not gonna dead hook. So now we got this out, we're gonna order the parts. So these are the replacement floors we have. It's the whole thing, the front and the rear. So you see it doesn't have the holes. There's no holes for seat belts or the seat mount or anything though. So it's still going to be some work to put them in, but at least you're not Fred Flintstone in it and cramming your feet through the floorboard. So that's what I'm going to work on now. I want to get the floors in it because we got a set of subframe connectors. So I'm pretty sure, I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure they go into the floor in the rear. They come in a little bit. Then we're going to work on the mini tubs, subframe connectors, the rear suspension. So got a lot to do to this thing.
All right, well, I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. If you did, please go down below, hit the like button, and also hit the subscribe button to stay tuned for more content like this here on the channel, as we are not even halfway done with this Nova. So you got a lot to look forward to. Here's some other videos to check out. Here's probably a playlist of the Nova right about here. And here's something else random that we did on the channel. And there's plenty of other stuff that we have going on. So stay tuned. I'll see you guys next time.